David, we appreciate you spending some time with us and talking to our viewers here in Colorado Springs. For those that maybe haven't followed our coverage too much of the interest rate hikes going on over the past few months or so now, could you give a little background as to why this is happening, what these interest rate hikes are supposed to do for the overall inflation problem?
Right, right. So the Federal Reserve is what controls the interest rates. And these interest rates are essentially what the Fed loans to banks. And what we saw as soon as the pandemic hit is that inflation hit close to 0%. What's healthy for economy and the goal for the Fed is a 2% inflation. But what we saw with all the stimulus money coming in, we saw supply chain issues that within a couple of years, inflation shot up and at its height was 9.1% a couple months ago. So your viewers probably see that things are more expensive at the grocery store. Gas prices went up almost double from previous years. So we're seeing everything become more expensive due to supply chain issues, a lot of money being pumped into the system due to stimulus. So what the Fed does is by raising interest rates, it makes borrowing money more expensive. And when it does that, there's less money that's out in the economy. So it brings down prices just a little bit. And so the goal for the Fed is to bring inflation down to 2%.
You talked about the goal. Is it working so far?
Well, so we saw inflation hit 9.1% a couple months ago. August numbers, the most recent one, it dropped down to about 8.3, 8.1%. So it is working a little bit. And the Fed has said that they will continue to raise interest rates until we get, or they believe that we will get to inflation down to 2%.
Who does this really impact the most right now?
So if you already have a loan, like a mortgage or a car loan, and you got a good interest rate, you're set. The people that are going to be impacted the most are, one, if you're going to get a new loan, a car loan, HELOCs, or anything that's a variable interest rate like credit cards. So about 6 months ago, we saw credit cards, the average was about 16%. Right now, it's about 18.17% according to the latest numbers that I've seen, and that's before today's interest rate hike. So we could probably see it go higher, and that is the all-time high. So July 2019, the average credit card interest rate was just over 17%, and that was the record that we had. Now we've beaten it, and so we can assume that interest rates on credit cards will continue to go up. So if you have debt or you're keeping a credit card balance, you'll want to pay that off as soon as possible because, again, you'll be paying more interest. The other benefit, there's pros and cons, is that savings accounts are typically also influenced by the what the Fed does. And a couple years ago, but even a year ago, the average savings account gave out only 0.06%. It's almost tripled since then. So as of today's numbers, not including the new Fed rate hikes, the average is about 0.17 in savings accounts. And so if you see high yield, I even saw a high yield account close to 2.5%. So if you're saving, that's going to be a benefit towards the Fed raising rates.
I mean, is it time for people to stop using credit cards? What's your advice for them?
So yeah, obviously it is. And one of the things that we're also seeing, it's because inflation is so high and inflation being 9%, if wages were also going up in tandem, then it wouldn't be that big of an issue. But what we're seeing is things are becoming more expensive, close to 10%, but wages are going up only 2 to 3%. Things are a lot more expensive. So some of the data we've seen is that people who had to make ends meet, they just got out of COVID. Now inflation is high. They're taking out more credit cards. So it's understandable that some people have to use them. What I would recommend people to do is really look at their budget, try to wait on spending anything that's not necessary. And the other thing too is look at what ways you can reduce your interest rate. So if you own a home, a HELOC, typically we'll see it go up, but it's typically lower than a credit card simply because of the fact that it is backed by your collateral. So secured loans, secured credit cards, I would really look at, hey, what credit cards do I have? Do I have something that is a 0%, sign-on bonus? So I know people just kind of spend without really thinking about it, but they should sit down and look at what are the interest rates for my cards and what can I do to ensure, heck, I'm not spending on my high interest credit cards.
Are there other things that people should be thinking about whether or not they have any interest in purchasing a home or a car in the next few days or weeks or months?
Yeah, and let's talk about home for a quick second. So at the beginning of the year, the average 30-year mortgage was about 3.2%. Today, the latest numbers were over 6%. So we've seen almost a double in mortgage rates, 15-year arms, and the home prices have just skyrocketed since COVID. So what we've also seen is home prices have not increased as much, and in some major metropolitan areas, they've actually gone down. So if you're looking for a home, this may actually be a good time to start looking. Beforehand, people were getting priced out. They're too expensive, and with mortgage rates doubling, having the same home price, that means in some cases people are spending $500 to $800 more just because of the mortgage rate hikes going on. So the interest rates going up has slowed down the housing market. So it could be, again, an opportunity to say, I couldn't afford it now, things are higher, but prices may start stabilizing or may go down in certain cities. So this is, again, people should, instead of just ignoring it, start doing the research and figuring out, okay, how do I spend smarter? How do I save smarter? And what is it that maybe I can afford now that I couldn't beforehand due to what the Fed has been doing with the interest rates?
Timing is tough. There's a lot of people wondering, well, is now the right time to buy? Should I wait? Are they going to go higher? Are they going to go lower in the next 6 months or so? What is your vision for the next 6 months? Do you think we've kind of hit the ceiling, or are rates going to go even higher?
So I hope we've hit the ceiling. The Fed did say in their announcement today that they plan on raising rates, and they're not going to meet in October. So what we've seen is them meeting on a monthly basis. They're going to skip a few months, and they wait because they want to see what the new economic data is. Inflation is still high. Probably what I would say is try not to make any emotional decisions and try not to make any decisions based on short-term circumstances. So if you're just trying to look to flip a home, it could be very volatile. But if you're looking, hey, this is a home that I want for the next 30 years, prices have started to stabilize a little bit, then it could be a good time to start looking at it, get a real estate agent or start doing your research. As long as we look to the long term and try not to, again, be focused on the short term, I'm very optimistic that we will get out of this. We will continue to grow our economy. Hopefully, people will be able to get the pay raises that they deserve and will bring inflation down in check. So I'm very optimistic. So that's why I don't have this doomsday type of thinking. And I think that impacts the type of plan that you create. So that's kind of how I see things, is that things will get better and it just makes us more resilient.
Is there something to say about investing right now, whether people should be upping their contributions or maybe waiting on the sidelines a little further till things kind of level out?
Mm. So one of the things that we learned in just looking at all the investing data is that it's very difficult to time the market. When do we buy and when do we sell? And we've seen that when we invest using our emotions, we buy it at highs because all that excitement is the herd mentality. And then when the market plunges, we get scared and start selling at a low. The best thing, if you're worried about what's going to happen, is what we call dollar cost averaging, is that you're investing on a regular basis, just like a 401k every month from your paycheck. And what that does is that you end up buying more shares of a stock or a mutual fund or ETF when prices are low. And when prices are high and more expensive, you're buying less shares if you're just putting like $500 and a set amount every month. So dollar cost averaging is a good way not to worry about what's going on. So we saw that the market did okay. And then when the Fed raised rates, the announcement came in, the market went down. And then people realized, okay, we kind of oversold a bit. It started going up. And then towards the end of the day, it went down again. So we never know what's going to happen. So I always recommend just, again, stay disciplined. Invest just on a monthly basis if you can afford to do so. Don't worry about timing the market too much, because again, our human nature is to buy things when they're on the high and then sell at a low. And by doing so, over the long haul, we've seen that the market does well. And if you're looking at 30 years, this little blip that happened today is not going to make that much of a difference.
David Chang, financial advisor with the Motley Fool. We really appreciate your time, and maybe we'll check back with you in a few months to see where we're at and whether that any of that advice has changed. We really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
All right, thank you very much.